Hey everybody, and welcome to Thursday Thermal Takes, the show where we pelt you with the hottest of takes via the most Thursday of bullets. Today we discuss the best high school anime of all time thus far, Assassination Classroom. Now this is definitely a really thermal take in that I've just classified an anime as the best high school anime of all time, when clearly there's like probably about 70% of anime are all high school anime, but we'll get into that a little bit more. So the background behind the show really is just that it was an anime. It had 2 seasons, 47 episodes total, that adapted 21 volumes of manga. It took place in the mid 2010s, and it made kind of a splash when it hit originally, and it's been kind of a mainstay since then. I remember there was a lot of hype originally behind the manga. The anime carried that. If you don't know about like maybe the slightly lower tier or kind of mid tier seasonal anime, you wouldn't have necessarily heard about this. But if you paid a lot of attention around the time it came out, you're probably at least a little bit familiar. But really, this anime is about a yellow tentacled creature who's named by his students Koro Sensei. He apparently vaporized 70% of the moon and can move and react at Mach 20, so he's very dangerous. And world governments have come together to essentially put a bounty on his head, several hundreds of billions of dollars or something like that. And what he went to them with, because he is not very much threatened by any of these governments. Mach 20 is pretty quick. He went to them and said that he wanted to teach a classroom of students with the objective of being able to kill him. Now that was the sort of the synopsis of this show. This whole take, it's not going to have any spoilers, any major ones at least. It's going to go over things in a very general manner because I do want people to actively seek this anime out, watch it, and be amazed. Because really, the premise that I just told you is kind of crazy and doesn't make a ton of sense. It makes a lot more sense when you watch it. It's an interesting one. Definitely check that out. The reason why it's the best of school anime, it really has to do with our definition of school anime. It's kind of like the Die Hard controversy, whether or not it's a Christmas movie. Like, how Christmassy is Die Hard? It's not that Christmassy, it just kind of takes place during Christmas. So would you say that Die Hard is the best Christmas movie? No, but you may still like Die Hard more than most Christmas movies. Die Hard isn't supposed to be a Christmas movie as much as it is an action movie. It's a really major 80s action thriller. Just kind of everything exploding and building heists and everything like that. That's a good movie. I wouldn't consider it to be a very Christmassy movie just because of the sheer fact that it doesn't revolve around Christmas. It just revolves around events that take place with Christmas being kind of a backdrop. And that's what I would say about most anime. Like 70% of anime or more all involve a high school or a middle school or some sort of school at some point. In most cases, it's a backdrop. It's not even that big of a part of an anime in the vast majority of cases. Like Naruto and Bleach both involve a school. Those are not school anime. If we're being perfectly honest, they have a school. They have the schools, the high school where Ichigo went to. They have the school where Naruto trains to be a ninja and everything. It's not remotely considered a school anime. At least in genre terms, it's definitely not, because when you look at anime and look at tags and everything, the genres are very much more specific than they are in a lot of Western things, mainly because anime have enough to where things become genres. I wouldn't be surprised if they had an isekai tag at some point for a lot of these, but Assassination Classroom really is one of the only school anime. Like, it is about the school. You could say that other anime are about schools too. You have My Hero Academia, which revolves around a school, and we'll get to that in a little bit later too. But Assassination Classroom is, in its very core, about the school and about being a school anime. It really kind of goes into this more by revolving directly around that specific classroom and all of the students' achievements, struggles, strengths, and shortcomings. It really, really dives deep into all of that. And it's a shonen action anime, and it's a comedy anime, but it really melds everything together very well. Everything is mixed perfectly. Just like, I don't know, bacon and chocolate. You wouldn't think it's great, but if you try them together, probably pretty good. The students' challenges have become a lot more relatable. You wouldn't say that an assassination classroom should be very relatable, but the way everything is broken down, the students have their own struggles within the class, and it comes down to a lot of very human tendencies, a lot of very down to earth kind of concepts that really affect most of us. And I think that's a great strength to that anime. And every part of that series, it was a 47 episode series, so about 50. Any other anime series that's about 50 episodes, it's either usually too short or way too long. I think this one may have actually been just right. Maybe not quite just right in every way. I think it could have been slightly longer, but it was all very good. Nothing was a waste of time. Everything was very interesting throughout the entire series. It really balances the story, the comedy, the action, and the drama all incredibly well. It's just the only anime where I feel like it is both a very school anime and also a very perfect anime. Even though I would say there are a lot of imperfections, nothing is really truly perfect. But this anime is definitely the top tier in terms of school anime. Even if you don't think it's the number one, it's got to be at least S tier. In contrast to a show like My Hero Academia, a lot of its fans widely agree that the show is not always as good as it usually is. Like, they have parts of the seasons where they're just covering like a dorm room situation or some sort of background thing, or they're like trying to do community service or something else like that, where it's not getting into the very essence of the show. It's kind of like a break, something to pad it out. It really is kind of amazing when you watch anime like these, like Assassination Classroom, that are very, very short in the grand scheme of things. Most television shows are very long, but it's very long compared to like the normal seasonal anime. The average anime is 12 episodes long. Maybe gets a second season, it becomes 24. Now this anime did double length seasons, 2 of them. That's not a ton of time, given that most shonen anime usually run on for hundreds of episodes. Even the really like the high budget, maybe like the sort of the pillar of anime in a lot of people's minds, like Attack on Titan, that ran for almost 100 episodes. Still, it's currently running as of this recording, but it's almost over. You got Seven Deadly Sins, that was a very good anime, that ran for 100 episodes. Assassination Classroom does all of the things that those anime do, but in a short period of time, and it makes it very watchable and very concise and very, very much enjoyable. Like, if you have any sort of inkling to watch this, I highly recommend watching it. Another aspect that is sort of a hot take on Assassination Classroom is probably pretty much the only weakness. Well, there's two weaknesses. The first one is they have these episodes that revolve around them taking exams. In the visuals, you have this depiction of the students taking on their test questions as like these monsters they're trying to assassinate. It's kind of cringy, those very specific parts. That's really one of the only negatives of the show. And then the other one would be the character development issues. Assassination Classroom really did develop its main characters incredibly well. This is one of the all-star football teams of anime. You could go and pick out some of the characters from this, the main characters, and they're legendary. You have Koro Sensei, who's incredibly lovable, and all of these things in a very weird, strange, kind of messed up way. You have the protagonist kind of perspective. You have Nagisa Shiota, who is the sort of boy who has this very complex sort of backstory and things to do with his mom and looking like a girl and all kinds of stuff. You have Karma Akabane, who is probably one of the most likable sort of cocky, arrogant characters in anime. You have a lot of really strong characters, especially when you look at the main cast. The only real issue is when you get into all the side characters. The classroom itself has about 30 students. It grows slightly, goes from about like roughly 25 to about roughly 30 throughout the entirety of the series, because they add in new students. They have to make it a little bit interesting, a little bit of week to week. You have students like Chubby Girl, Baseball Boy, and maybe Terasuka's homies. Kind of characters who I don't really remember their names, and it wasn't really important enough for me to look them up to write this episode. They did have those 2 snipers that were really cool, but there's a lot of background characters that get kind of tossed to the side. They're part of this sort of familial classroom, but they don't feel we don't feel like they're that close. It creates a sort of weird double standard. Those two issues are really it, though. It's hard to find a lot of things wrong with this. The ending is incredible. The show overall is incredible. Ass Class is quite excellent. It deserves a watch. An all-around great anime. I would say you'd introduce people to anime with this anime. That's the praise I would give it. I would have to put it, if I were to ever make top 10s and top 20s lists for certain types of anime, certain genres, anything that could include this, it would have to be in a lot of them. I don't see a lot of scenarios where this isn't sort of in a lot of top lists, just because you have a lot of anime out there, and this is one of the best in a lot of ways. It is definitely not one of my favorite. I mean, it is among some of my favorite anime, but it's not one of my favorite, but it is definitely one of the objectively best. Let me know what you think of this Thursday Thermal Take and what topics you'd like to see next. You can do that by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Also, subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I'm really interested in doing Thursday Thermal Takes on just about everything, so I'd love to hear any of y'all's input. But for now, this is Thursday Thermal Takes, and I'll see you next week.